I wanted to talk to you about, I know you have been one of the key people I have seen on Facebook that have been kind of promoting like women in solar and solar women, basically like they're creating a group and including other people in this industry, because obviously women are the minority in this industry, as probably a lot of sales industries. Can you tell me a little bit about like what was it that made you do that, and what kind of plans or efforts have you been making, and what have you also found? Because I feel like women are able to possibly sell and attract a different audience than a lot of men are, and therefore you're going to be able to reach different people. So can you just tell me a little bit about like what you have found as a woman in the solar industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the industry, of course, I found that many companies, I've been at four different solar companies or combination of, home improvement and solar. And what I always found is I was the only woman or one of like four. And then when COVID happened, I was in a organization where they laid off every woman except for me. So then it was just me and a bunch of guys at a big corporate company. And I found that they sometimes we get, not only are we underrepresented, but we're underappreciated in a lot of ways. And these are big, big companies with, that are on Wall Street that you would think, oh, they wouldn't participate in treating women differently, but they did. And they have. And I've experienced it myself to the point that I was like, women need to get together and we need to like make a space for ourselves until other people start creating that. And that's what I really liked about social media and why I'm so active is because when other people don't give you space and you create it and then others support that, it creates a movement. And so my whole thing, it's a nonprofit. I don't make a penny off it. We've had a mastermind. We have a group where all of us talk about it. We host weekly. Well, we used to host weekly there about once a month or twice a month, and even Zooms to help women feel included, so that even a lot of them come and they message us and they tell us, I'm the only woman in my office. There's only 8 of us. And when they're in our group, they feel welcome. They can ask any question. Nobody treats them like they're silly. And a lot of them are just like, oh, how do you deal with, the customers flirting with you and different things that women face. But I have found that we are very strong in the industry once we stick to it and we do it and we don't listen to the outside noise or the people that might doubt us, because we've all experienced it, not even on purpose or in a malicious way. Like I've had customers ask me like, you're going to check my, many years ago before there were more of us in it, like 4 years ago, guys would say like, you're here for my solar, or you're going to know about my panel. And I'm like, yes, I do know about your panel. Let's open it up. And they'll be like, are you going to break a fingernail? And I just kind of laughed it off. But we've all experienced it from other, coworkers, from bosses, and from even customers, and not in a bad way, just they don't see many women in construction. And it is, we call it the solar industry, but at the end of the day, it's still a construction position. And so just making it an even playing field, showing that we're just as capable, if not more. And like you mentioned, we bring the way that I kind of describe it is we bring like empathy, understanding, customer service, more of that warm woman touch. And so one time I was laughing because I was like, I have a whiteboard where I keep all my projects on. Even though I have them on a spreadsheet, I still like to visually see them, because then I'll remember like, oh, I was supposed to call, this about this project or whatever. And I looked at it and I had like 13 names and there were 10 of them were women. So we clearly sell to other women, and women feel like more trusting of another woman, I guess, because we tell them, that's part of my whole thing is I tell people like, I build your system the way I would put it on my own house. I have solar on my own house and this is how I like it to look. I'm not going to put like 2 panels here, 3 over there, unless that's the only option. But I'm going to make it as aesthetically pleasing to what you like, with the best production, with the best panels, warranties, black on black. I'm not going to put those old school lines on your roof. And they like that. They like the fact that we are very tailored and tuned into what they want. So we're working on this project together versus like, hey, what do you want? A or B? All right, here you go, sign here. We're very detail oriented. And I'm not saying men aren't, but that's what my customers tell me. I mean,
I'm saying that men aren't. I'll say that. I have no problem saying that women or men are less detail oriented than women. I mean, obviously there's like, oh, that's not true. I mean, obviously there's men that are very organized. There's women that are very unorganized. Like there's always extremes on both ends. But definitely, in my experience, generally speaking, men are less pay less attention to details.
Mhm. I mean, I've
So
had
you don't have to say it. I'll say it though.
so I'll tell
But
you this, like I've had cases where we've sold to females, several of them, a couple at least minimum that are still with me on my team, where we sold them, me and a mentee, we took care of the project from A to Z. We answer all the little questions and we're like, people always laugh because they're like, how do you just reply instantly? And I'm like, because I'm always on my phone, you know? But to the point that they feel comfortable and they join my team after we sold them solar. So that's what I'm saying, because they see like, oh, this is a woman and she does it and she makes good money and I could do it too. So it's also not just about making a space and all, but showing every day. Like when I post stuff like, oh, we did this deal or we did that. I don't know if you follow me or anybody does, but
mhm.
I never post about my personal sales because those don't matter to me. To me, it matters when I help someone with zero experience doing solar to become a solar pro. When they do their first 3 deals and they're on their own, showing, not telling. I always, my value is that I want to show women this is how you do it. And if you follow this pattern, you can do it too. But you got to be patient. You got to do the work and you got to not care what people think about you being a woman in solar. Like you just got to show them every day who you are, what you do, and what you stand for. And if you do that enough, nobody questions you, you know?
Yeah, um I think overall, like everybody needs to number not only really I think we need to stop thinking of all of us like in different labels and different reasons. Like we tend to look for the negatives in a lot of situations rather than looking at the positives. And like there is like the fact that I can definitely see how women in solar and women in sales, like there's things that traditionally happen in those kinds of environments that could make women feel excluded if or uncomfortable. And I think that's something that the more understanding we have, the better off they will be. But also, I mean, the more women that we get involved and get into the process and get active and make them feel comfortable, like you're doing with your Facebook group and all that stuff, the better. And I like that you talk. I've been thinking a lot recently about the people that you see that do post about all their personal deals, or the people that there's a lot of people that talk the talk even though they're not walking the walk. But once again, it's social media. Like just because you see it and that's what you're comparing them to, that's not a lot of times. I've seen the people that post the most and brag the most seem to be the ones that are also really struggling the most. They just don't want to let it on, or they won't admit it. But that's definitely interesting. And I will say, I don't think it's necessarily a woman thing. I think if you notice in the groups, anyone who asks any question that's relatively beginner, solar bros have a habit of kind of making those people feel pretty dumb.
And that's one
And
of the reasons we don't allow men. I've had, like, we had said, oh, when we get to 300, we'll allow men. But we voted and the women said, no, let's keep it women only because nobody bashes anybody. Nobody makes fun of companies. They actually go in there and ask, like, hey, this happened. What should I do? And they'll get answers. And the women in there aren't just sales reps, they're CEOs, they're manufacturer VPs of panel companies, inverter companies. And it's super cool, like that we have somewhere where we could talk about things without feeling like I'm going to get this backlash. Like, go to your manager. That's what I see in those groups all the time. Whoever recruited you should have taught you. It's like, look, clearly I could reach out to that person, but I'm asking a panel of 3,000 of supposedly the best people in the country just to get another perspective. But we're treated as if we're dumb, you know, and that goes for everyone. And
yeah,
so,
it's. I apologize for interrupting. I mean, it's definitely. I think solar. You think of like I say solar bros, and like I kind of do it jokingly because that's like the stereotype of like the solar salespeople who are just like knock next door, knock door, like and now I have all the guys mad at me too. But it's definitely, I mean, I think it's just being able to feel comfortable and be happy and excited, and overall, whatever helps not only the individuals get the the help that they need and the support that they need and the resources that they need, but whatever helps more solar pros get involved and more solar pros get better and more educated, and that is all going to help the industry itself grow, and we're going to be able to sell more solar and help more families, and we're all going to be able to make more money. And it's definitely important that people are able to find a place they don't have to fit the typical culture and like try to go in and be something that they're not. They can kind of create their own path and find a group that supports them. And that's really, really cool, because I do think that it needs to be more women in solar in general. But once again, that's also with variety sales. Did you ever notice with roofing and other industries, other home services, when you were in focus more on those, was it similar? Is there more women in solar compared to those industries? Is there more women in those industries? Like, what was your, like, looking back, what do you think the breakdown looks like?
It's similar. I see more women in solar though now. The thing is, when I was doing the other thing, it was about 4 years ago when I was doing roofing and all that. So I wasn't really on social media as much. I think that where you see this whole new like division, or kind of like what we're talking about, is more on social media. And it's more people just like hyping themselves or their organization, and it might be a recruiting tactic, who knows. But when I was at the other company where I sold all those, it was about 60-40%. And that was a smaller company, but there was about 25 reps actually. And there was a pretty big chunk of women there too. Like there was more representation of women. But again, we were selling windows and things like that, some of the women were coming from backgrounds. Like I used to do real estate before too. So we have a background in the home and like the values and how much things add and stuff. So yeah, it's about the same. But now I would say in solar, we see a lot more women. The thing I saw a lot that I see more in solar than when I was in that industry is I see a lot more women coming and going. And my goal is to get them to stay, to feel supported enough to want to stay in solar and not see it as a quick buck or a transitionary thing. As like I tell people and they laugh, I'm like, solar is it. This is what I'm retiring from, you know? And if you're not that passionate about the industry or that sure about what you want to do, then it will come across in your sales and your team building and your recruiting and your business. You have to know, like, and be passionate about what you're doing and not look at it like, oh, I'll do this until the ITC runs out. If you're doing that, you will be squeezed out of the industry if and when it does go out. But if you're looking at this like, I'm not doing this for a quick buck, I'm saving the planet, I'm helping homeowners take control of their bill. And by the way, I happen to make good commissions on it. That if you have that whole approach to it and that passion comes through, being genuine, authentic, and that's your message, people buy what you believe in and your message and what you not, commission breath is a real thing. People can tell when you're just trying to make a quick buck. And when you're like, I work for you, I'm going to help you get a good deal, just like I got for myself and all these customers, then they want to go on that journey with you. They want you to be that person. And that's how you build a referral-based business. So you're not always knocking doors. Nothing against knocking doors, but I don't, unless it's an install, because luckily I've built my reputation, branding, and people come to me and they're like, hey, my friend wants to go solar. Like I gave them your information. I'll connect you to. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm super lucky and blessed, but it didn't just happen overnight. And that's what people need to know. You give value, and then you ask, and then you post, hey, by the way, I could give you a quote, but not without doing the work. So you can't just expect to post a bunch of stuff about solar and everyone's going to reach out to you. Like you have to give value.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Kyle Thumm. Thank you so much for watching this solar growth clip from the Solar Growth Podcast and my interviews with solar professionals. I greatly appreciate it. If you're watching this, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate every new subscriber I get, and it helps me to create more content and grow myself in solar, as well as help as many solar professionals grow in solar as well, so that we can make this industry a much better industry that's going to have a much bigger impact. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.